Miami is loud right now. There are people in the streets stopping traffic. The mayor of Miami is telling people that we should be bombing Cuba, airstrikes on Cuba, Mayor Bitcoin. And I think that all of us here on the most Cuban show there is anywhere in sports podcasting, an incredibly niche distinction. I think I speak for all of the Cubans around here when I say I am thankful that the voice for our people has spoken, maximum reason, and it is Pitbull.
This is a message to the world. We need to stand up, step up, but if you don't understand what's going on, then you need to wake the fuck up. Not only is this a Cuba event, a Cuba thing, this is a world event. This isn't about politics. This is about saving lives. This is about unity, not division. And bottom line, this is about taking action. Let me tell you something, why I'm frustrated and when I see everybody out there and doing what they're doing, which I love what they're doing. Okay? Because not only do we live for freedom, we ride for freedom, we die for freedom, but we motherfucking appreciate freedom. And it gets me hot, it bothers me, and it frustrates me to a certain extent, being a Cuban American and having a platform to speak to the world and not being able to help my own people. Not being able to get them food, not being able to get them water, not being able to get them medicine. But most of all, not being able to help and really get them what they deserve, which is freedom. And this is my way of talking to the world. All world allies get together to help. Global businesses get together to help. People that we're so proud of, people such as a Jeff Bezos, Cuban American, graduated from a high school in Miami, built one of the biggest companies in the world, the richest man in the world. He's somebody that can get involved and really help us on what we got. All we can do is create awareness, but politics are gonna be politics. And while they figure out what they figure out, we need to figure out how to really help. We need to get creative. We need to figure out solutions while they're losing their lives over there literally for something that we wake up every day and appreciate, which is freedom. So to everybody out there, stand up, step up, and if you don't understand, get with the motherfucking program and wake up. This is about freedom and it's about human rights. And to everybody in Cuba, keep the fight up. Because this is about freedom and it's about human rights. And to everybody in Cuba, keep the fight up. Para todos los cubanos que están allá afuera y todo lo que está pasando en Cuba ahora mismo. Ustedes son lo que va a motivar el mundo, inspirar el mundo para que vean lo que es de verdad vivir y morir por la libertad.
So Spanish can be an inefficient language. What he said at the end there in Spanish, literally translated, is just politics can become politricks.
Love it.
Yeah.
It's a good line.
He had me until, no, it's not a good line. He had me until there, right? I was with him. I was
Great
riding.
line.
I was riding
wrong
with
with
him,
it?
and
I
I'm
mean-
like, oh, come on. Don't make it a Pitbull song in the middle of it.
That was the highlight.
Dan, he was in his bag there. It's not the first time he's dropped that one on us. Politics turns into politricks.
Oh, yeah.
It is the D-Wade Eurosap of what is in Armando's
wrong.
bag.
Magic. Magical.
Come on, Armando. Don't throw a lyric in the middle of in the middle of your rage as our mayor is. Where did that come
Pitbull's
from?
our mayor.
But no, but Suarez, you do not have the power to air raid Cuba. Like, what are you doing?
I think he was only saying that we can't rule that out, which again, I don't understand the jurisdiction. Pitbull made a lot of good points in there outside of politics turns into politricks, which I really appreciated that's as neutral a political view as you can. And that's why he uttered the cliche. And he brought something to my attention that I hadn't even considered. And Jeff Bezos.
Oh, but this
Where
is
you at?
Okay,
Wait a
Bezos,
second.
he's
Dan,
gonna be the
he makes a good point
What,
on
it's
Jeff
Bezos'
Bezos.
responsibility?
We should all get Bezos' money. Is that the point? The good point is you have plenty. Give it to everything
No.
where it's needed.
No, but I'm saying, like, how do we help? Is his lament at the beginning because of the embargo? There's no way to help. They need internet. Even it's the first thing that Ron DeSantis has ever said that I've kind of agreed with. How do we provide internet? Because that is how you help the boots on the ground there. Information is the weapon of the people. Amazon Prime drop some VPNs down there? Like, it does make sense. Like, Jeff Bezos, who is so quiet on political matters, he's the most famous Cuban American outside of Pitbull, and he should help here.
Okay, so you want him to, just to be clear, okay, because we can't do it on those trucks that are everywhere, you want him to air bomb Cuba with Wi-Fi.
I am saying that if Amazon decided to declare war on Cuba, what do we do about it?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Bezos is so rich, he could build a military for Miami-Dade County, and then the mayor of Miami could bomb Cuba.
Do we know enough about the politics of Jeff Bezos to understand what are we doing?
Politics, Dan.
Okay,
Billy, politics.
There was something that happened yesterday, and you saw maybe you didn't see this, the Department of Homeland Security basically reiterating for those who did not know, and this is the literal least you can do as a country where there's freedom. It's the literal least you can do, which is, hey, our borders are closed. If you try to get here by sea, get out of here. You're not going to be allowed here. Those have been the rules for a couple of years here. Cubans have gotten used to having a different set of rules than all other exiles and refugees and immigrants, but this has been the wet foot, dry foot, rather quietly for Cubans, has been gone for a few years now.
It was the tough talk from the president and his administration on illegal immigration that a lot of conservatives were calling for at the very oddest time.
Yeah, and it was uncomfortable. It's something, I don't know, Billy, I don't know how this landed with you, but hearing it reiterated like that forcefully and with everyone swimming in the political waters around it in a way that's uncomfortable, because Miami's politics are just soaked in this thing. And I've told you before how lonely it feels. And I know Cubans have had benefits others have not had. And if I'm in Haiti, I would totally understand anyone looking at that and saying, man, that is not cool in any way. That if Cubans get to your shores, it's cool. And if Haitians do, it's not. And so now there's the absolute of nobody's allowed in. Nobody's allowed in. But there's a little bit of difficulty with that particular toothpaste when Miami is built atop those freedoms. Miami's economy, Miami's political base that they're all fighting for is built atop people coming over that ocean through the desperation and arriving here in pursuit of freedom. Billy, I don't know how that landed on you because it was very tough talk, but I'm guessing that a lot of people didn't realize, because they're not immersed in the roots of this Cuban issue, that all they're saying there is the same thing they've been enforcing for a few years, which is if you come over here, you're not going to be allowed over here anymore. Just the timing of it, when Cubans are saying, please help those people, it's the least America can do. It doesn't feel very humane.
So the wet foot, dry foot policy, which is what you're talking about, for those who don't know, essentially before said, if you got here from Cuba and you got to dry land, you could stay. You just go and I guess go to immigration or whatever, and then they will register you, and then eventually you could get a path to citizenship. And it's something that the Cubans benefited from that other countries did not benefit from. And it's been kind of to say a sore subject is an understatement amongst people who are looking for like refuge from other countries where they're persecuted. The part that's, I would say, and this is someone who directly has benefited from that, my wife is here because of that policy. So it's a frustrating thing to hear, you know what, too bad, so sad, sorry that you took that away, that you don't have that anymore, but no one else ever had that. I think that what we should be aspiring from is not kind of hating people that benefited from that, but hoping that everyone can benefit from a similar policy and come here and not have malice towards people who did have that for a long time when others didn't. It's something that went away in 2017. I think it was part of, and I could be wrong, but I believe that it was part of the arrangement in normalizing relations with Cuba under Obama. I think in it was early 2017 when they officially ended it. And a lot of people didn't know that it had ended, but yesterday or the day before, they essentially said, hey, don't come because you're not going to be able to stay and we're going to send you back. So, I mean, I wasn't as shocked when I saw it. It was more so, hey, we're going to enforce this, so don't risk your lives to come here because you're just going to head right back anyway.
It made me sad, though, and I understand everyone listening to this. You guys have been in this town for a long time. Cody, you've known Miami's politics for a long time, and
Right.
we've been talking about it here. I've rarely felt more publicly lonely on an issue than Elian Gonzalez 20 years ago, where Miami wanted one thing and felt the roots of freedom very strongly, and it felt like America wanted the opposite, and we weren't really reaching them. They were wondering, what are those crazy Cubans doing down there? Why are they going to that house and raiding a closet to take a child away from a family?
And Greg, you and Dan have a unique perspective because you work for the Miami Herald. And when I was younger, things got really hot between the Cuban people here in Miami, the Cuban exiles, and the Miami Herald. And you were there while that was happening, weren't you?
Oh, of course. The Elian Gonzalez thing, looking back on it, with sort of the clarity of retrospect, not that you didn't realize it then, but the optics of that were so horrible. I mean, everyone can picture the image of those drawn guns and little Elian Gonzalez, who was 8 years old at the time, cowering, and it was just so abhorrent that the U.S. government was sort of almost kidnapping this child.
But it's what America, when you polled America, that's what America wanted.
outside of Cuban Miami.
Take that child out of the freedom of Miami and send him back to his father and Cuba and the lack of freedom after his mother had died trying to get him that
Right.
freedom. The American government and its military arms stormed into a house and went in there and took that child. And that's what I'm talking about, the loneliness of it, because America was looking at that and what is the matter with those crazy Cubans? And now they're looking at it and, Mayor Bitcoin's out there saying, bomb Cuba. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? How are you ending up? You're the mayor of Miami. You're the crypto mayor of Miami, the son of a lifelong politician. What are you doing?
Playing to constituents. That's why Ron DeSantis signs into law something that prohibits the right to assembly for essentially Black Lives Matter protesters. But when he's asked about when Cuban protesters shut down the Palmetto Expressway, he doesn't have an answer as he's in a room full of Cuban constituents. It's politics as usual. And I found BLM's statement yesterday kind of heartbreaking because I took the opportunity with the Cuban protesters to, instead of just highlighting my plight, because plenty of that was going around, really kind of shining a light on some of the hypocrisy that I found very frustrating, because I didn't make it home till 8 o'clock that night because I was directly affected by that shutdown on one of the most important highways. But I got it, just like I got it when people shut down the MacArthur Causeway. I'm not a fan of doing that. It affects a lot of people. I think it's counterintuitive, but you have the freedom to do that, and you're not affording that same freedom to BLM protesters. And to see what BLM's statement on it was yesterday was really heartbreaking. Now, I understand it's a very complicated issue here, and this is an opportunity to talk about an embargo that hasn't necessarily worked.
Dan, what do you want Suarez to say? Because Mike's right. He's playing politics there. He's speaking to the... No, but what do you want him to say?
You're the mayor. You could use all sorts of strong verbiage without suggesting that America intervened by bombing the people who are protesting because they're suffering. Let Mike finish his point here because it's a delicate one.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I wish it came sooner because I'm nervous about levying anything that can be perceived as a criticism of BLM with reason. Like, social media right now is kind of toxic, and this has become a political issue. So Black Lives Matter took the opportunity to weigh in, and a lot of people have been waiting for days because you're drawing direct comparisons among protests as to what they would say. Black Lives Matter condemns the U.S. federal government's inhumane treatment of Cubans. Let me stop right there. They took this opportunity to condemn the United States government as opposed to the Cuban government. They make a really good point about how the embargo has directly affected people of color on the island, and they even actually tout Cuba's civic rights history in backing African countries. The Cuban situation starts with Castro's communist regime. Full stop. Full stop. Yes, we're here in part because the U.S. embargo has done its job in terms of really crippling that economy. But I see that, and I'm like, guys, I'm an ally. You've done so much in further educating me about how institutions that are meant to protect and serve us are gunning our people down in the streets. The Cuban government does the same thing to its people. They're not secretive about it. It's out there. Talk to a Cuban exile. For you to dismiss that and take the opportunity to condemn the U.S. government when it could have been within the same message and not bad in leadoff. It was hurtful to me.
Mike, but that's where we are when it becomes about the insurrection, and you hear from a lot of black folks, well, this is chickens coming home to roost right here. This is not my problem. This is what you wrought with your policies. Black and Cubans are divided on this,
Yeah,
and they're divided.
Black Cubans are also getting gunned down by their own government there. That is the top line issue here. We can get into the embargo, and the embargo could have been a part of that statement. But they totally minimize the atrocities that the Cuban government is responsible for and put the onus on the entire situation on the United States. That's bullshit, in my opinion.
This is the core issue of what we've been arguing about for many years, which is, does the embargo work? Well, yes, of course. It makes the people and the government and the world of Cuba suffer because they're stuck in the 1950s. They've got Russian lattes in the street, and children are walking around with condoms used as balloons because there is nothing there, because we've choked it as a punishment for what they are, which is a human rights violator that leads to Miami being birthed, 90 miles away from Key West. What's been birthed here is what gets birthed when that spits out through its oppression the yearning for freedom that has been allowed here and that has built this particular city that we're sitting in the middle of. The embargo is where it starts, and the argument starts on whose fault is that? The Cuban governments or the American governments for doing the embargo either too well or too poorly, depending on how it is that you want to look at it. The result of the embargo is we've choked that island, but not quite to death. The government still profits, and it's all centered around that argument right there, Mike. All of the disagreement. How do you think America receives as the Black Lives Matter movements are protesting here and Cuban people near the Freedom Tower are driving trucks into it in a way that is hostile, and they're yelling about Black Lives Matter being communist? Like, the first trick of some of these grifters is to pit all the sides against each other.
Oh, yeah, and they moved the goalpost, too. Well, I didn't see any places being destroyed by these protesters. Yeah, and I also didn't see police officers in riot gear, shields, and batons already agitated because they're the ones being directly protested as opposed to a foreign government in a place where Cubans are the majority, and many of those officers share those very same sensibilities. There's reasons why those riots get ratcheted up, or if you could even call them riots in many senses, because the police already go into it hot and heavy. That was missing in the Palmetto protests that we saw here recently. But I know you said it starts with the embargo, and it doesn't. It just flatly doesn't. The embargo is a very polarizing topic here, not really across the world. I think there were two countries that voted to keep the embargoes in the United Nations. And it was the United States and Israel, who are usually bound on this stuff. They back us up there. We back them up everywhere, just historically. Across the world, they say we should end this embargo. There are conversations to be had there, but it's not the conversation that many people are begging to have. Just like you go to the streets, and I hate to draw direct comparisons, but you're basically screaming for people to just pay attention. Black Lives Matter. This is happening. Cubans down here, Cuban exiles, have been trying to get your attention about the atrocities that government has committed on its own people for years. And for you, as this massive, influential civil rights movement that is doing so much important work, to completely bypass that, to take a shot at the United States government, instead of the government that is killing its own people, was really hurtful for people like me who consider myself allies to that BLM movement.
The embargo was intended to put pressure on the Cuban government. It ends up hurting the Cuban people. And that, in turn, leads to what we're seeing now, I think, which is sort of an uprising in a protest and another overt yearning for freedom and a revolution and democracy and all that stuff. So in that sense, from that prism, the embargo may be working because it leads to the Cuban people being so frustrated that they finally have to do something.
It's been too many years to get to this desperation, and the only reason it's working now is because pandemic and they can't get medicine, and we normalized relations for a minute and gave them a sprinkle of tourism dollars that they cannot have because they're now plagued by the inability to control this virus. You can't say the embargo is working. Look, I can be I can listen to the hardline people all the time on this. I'm not aligned with all of my brethren on this. The argument can't be made that the embargo is working when the result is the people who suffer most are not the people who are in charge of the power. It's the people who are now protesting and risking their lives to shout their desperation at you.
The implication, though, often when you're saying the embargo is to blame, gives a pass to the government, a government that doesn't let people even fend for themselves over there. If you want lobster, tough shit. You're not going to get lobster. That's for the tourist. If you want to go fish, you're not going to do that. If you think differently than anyone else, you're going to prison. The embargo has nothing to do with why they're imprisoning people, why it is that 100 people are missing who were speaking out in these rallies. That has nothing to do with it. The government is the one that's doing that to people. So when you start doing things like that, it's not to say that the embargo helped, right? But the embargo is not the reason why things are the way that they are down there. And when you lift the embargo, you don't necessarily guarantee that things are going to be better for the Cubans. When you normalize relations, when you had tourism, I mean, Cuba's no better. They're no better than they were before that happened. And obviously it takes time to do that, but it's kind of just trusting the government. Hey, you know what? We're gonna give you things that you need. Do the right thing here. And it's a government that hasn't done the right thing for people for a long time.
What Mike is saying there, and I guess it sort of bears, if you care about the history of the people on the show, if you love my father and you don't understand the story, is how frustrating and lonely it is to try and fight your way through all of the layers of bullshit to simply point to, hey, it's not our government that's limiting that person's right to think and live freely. It's not our government that is denying those suffering people information and detergent and any food that's not rationed on an island. They cannot eat shrimp. That's for the tourists. That is a punishment. We are making the suffering worse by trying to punish their lack of democracy, their lack of freedom. We are making the suffering worse and have been for 6 decades. And now, instead of throwing their life to the ocean and America doing the bare minimum of saying, don't come over here, now they're going up and uprising against the very government that will if you don't listen to this, if we just wander away, if we keep slinging the layers of feces at each other because we don't have allies. We're all meant to be divided because that's how it works. That's the best way to keep all of the minorities from getting in power as the demographics of this country shift, is pit them against each other. And so that's what Mike is bringing reference to. I don't want to argue about embargo or politics or whether we should bomb or whether it should be humanitarian effort. The starting point is people are suffering and America helps, right? And they're right over there and they built this city and they are our parents and our grandparents and everyone in here has the stories. Our families here are littered with these stories of Mike and Billy and Tony, of all of these stories that have been passed down to us because all we are is a byproduct of the freedom that birthed. We haven't suffered any. Like Billy's telling you, yes, Billy's wife suffered, Billy's family suffered, but we haven't done the suffering. We've been the benefits of this freedom. We value it. And so it's just crushing to see what it is that's happening now, but it's also an opportunity to wave our hands again like we did 20 years ago and be like, it doesn't have to be lonely. If you guys want to just understand what's going on there, if you want to understand that what it takes to get to that level of desperation, how willing would you be? Like, we've talked for months now about how Black people teach their children, be careful around police officers. Just be careful. They're trained differently because bad things happen. Cubans just want you to see, look how bad the desperation must be for you to want to fight those police officers and the arm that governs those police officers, and there are no recriminations. It's not like here, the video cameras are going to help you or court systems or anything. Like it's the human rights violations are so extreme that the government and its military arm can do whatever it pleases to you, and that they just want to be heard. And now they're in the streets because they don't have internet, waving their arms saying, please hear us. We don't have food. We do not have money. We do not have medicine.
And unfortunately, there's no way to help. I feel helpless because I do want to help the people out there seeking freedom. Internet access is a major weapon. How do we help? The embargo as it's presently constituted, makes it really difficult to help in ways that we could help other SOS movements across the globe, just because it's such a hot button issue.
It's so divided. My parents, I can tell you, and trying to talk to my parents about this, and I don't know what you guys have been talking with your families about, because I've had this conversation with my mother over decades, where her suffering, I've told you before, closes her esophagus, leaving the family 15 years old, not knowing whether you're going to ever, see them again. She just doesn't want to watch any of it because it's post-traumatic stress disorder she'd prefer to bury her head someplace else, because all of this just conjures a 50-year-ago time that I would imagine is something that you would feel, I don't know, around war, if that's too extreme, but it's a post-traumatic thing of what is the worst thing we've talked about here when it comes to finances is not being poor. It's being rich once and then being poor. When it comes to freedom, once you've had it, but you didn't have it, your greatest fear is that you wander around wondering whether it's being taken away, whether it's going to be taken away, whether my parents are so scarred by all of this that they don't believe any of the video and stuff, because they're just so used to distrust the propaganda of the Cuban government that they don't know what's real. And they're being bombarded by technology, and they have no idea what's real, what's propaganda, what's fact. And this is exactly where it is that freedom and democracy in this country get unappreciated, right? Over the last, what you have seen, the vantage point of Cuban Americans on what's happened the last 4 years with Trump is something that just triggers all of it, that creates all of this chaos of, is this socialism? Is this how democracy dies? Is this where my grandchildren and my children lose their freedom? Right now, because of the unrest of Black Lives Matter is against the Cubans. Everybody's against each other. They're in the streets. There's chaos. People are shooting each other. When does the state police come in and just take away your freedom?
And it's tropes that the conservative party in this country traffic in and played to those fears. And that's why there is such strong support. And I get frustrated as someone that is left-leaning, that is progressive, that is down with those civil causes. I got very frustrated during the presidential election when Joe Biden seemed to prioritize Puerto Ricans in Central Florida and just was silent on socialism accusations from the right Cuban base here, that even though Miami-Dade went to Joe Biden, it was a lot closer, and it helped Donald Trump win the state because it's such an effective tool. They traffic in it, and for progressive entities like the Democratic Party or Black Lives Matter to not just agree on the simple fact, to not lead with the fact that Cuba's government, the Castro regime, was bad and the seed of all of this, then we don't get anything in the way of meaningful conversation. And then if we don't have that, then there's no way to help. And I and many Cuban exiles feel helpless.
One of the things to me here, Stugotz, that if you don't understand what the power politics in play are here that are important, as I read a story here recently about whatever it was, 600 tons of fish, dead fish, have ended up on the shores of Tampa Bay, and everything that's happening with the climate, and wherever it is that you're scared, if you're paying attention, as scientists are saying, there's going to be so much flooding in 2030 that we're not going to have a capacity for it in any way. All of this was decided. Al Gore wasn't president because of what happened in Cuba, in Miami, with Cubans as it related to the distortion of that election. And that's what people are fighting over politically in Florida. And just please try, as you're watching this, try to concentrate on the human suffering and not the people grabbing for power and politics and platforms all around it, as Ted Cruz is out here telling you that it's dirty immigrants who are infecting us with COVID. Because
it's hard to ignore that portion of it, though, right? Because you do see people out here for political gain, for political reasons.
But I'm just telling you that it's the feces throwing that gets in the way of understanding the cries for pain.
And you could cut right to it by calling it politics. Yep.
We really did get serious there, and I feel like we should have spent more time
got caught
talking
up
about
in politics.
Armando.
We started talking about Al Gore and all this stuff.
We did. You're so right. But he was wanting to talk about an inconvenient truth 15 years ago. He was talking about the climate problems 15 years ago. And you're right. I should have done more.
Doesn't have anything
Armando.
to do with what's happening.
What's this
in Cuba
flooding
right
thing
now.
in 2030? Like, what's going to happen there?
I think
mean,
Jacksonville might be good too.
Oh, good.
Savannah might be better.
My end game with Baselli still intact.
This is Greg Cote at his most radiant. This is Greg Cote healthier, Stugotz. I don't know if you've seen this or noticed it, but this Greg Cote right now has a radiant sheen on him, and I'm convinced it is only because over the last week we paid him, Meadowlark Media did, in attention. We sent him to a golf tournament. He wandered around. He was famous. He hobnobbed with celebrities, and it was just nonstop look at me for Greg Cote.
I think Greg would take attention over money. I do. I think it's more important to him.
Right. That's pretty much what I've been doing for the last year and a half on this show. But seriously, I'm kidding. You know that, Dan. Love you like a brother. But much younger brother. No, I love the Tahoe trip. I really enjoyed the hell out of Marty Fish.
Just a little stand-up act of bad one-liners, one after another. Love you like
I
a
enjoyed
brother.
the much younger one,
Didn't
though.
really have anything.
No, I
You're
had
my
nothing.
brother.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please continue. Do more bad one-liners.
I had nowhere to go on that. No, you guys have probably already talked about the Lake Tahoe trip, but I was saying off air to you how appreciative I was, and I didn't know whether to thank you or DraftKings or Meadowlark.
So appreciative that you don't have a back in my day, and we haven't had one in a month.
Well, this is a Thursday. Back in my day is a Tuesday joint. So
Threw you off, right?
yeah. So
of
whenever
course,
I'm
yes.
whenever I'm back in on a Tuesday, whenever that might be, if it ever happens again, then we're gonna try to unloosen the spigot and get the back in my day pipeline working again.
So you're
in
running
fact,
out of.
I have one in queue in the queue. You know, I have a good back in my day ready
Right.
in my mind. Not
For
written.
Tuesday, though. Right?
Yeah. Oh, Tuesday
of
only.
course,
Sure.
yes.
Yeah.
We've thought for a while that you're coughing and you're wheezing and you're injuring yourself coming up steps and injuring your back when an alarm goes off, that you are dying slowly in a way that's really uncomfortable. But
Right.
creatively, I believe that you're also dying because you're just simply running out of ideas. You've had a month to think of one idea to do a back in my day, your signature move. It's the
Right.
thing that gets attention. It's your landmark item around here. It's something we can sponsor if we start sponsoring things, but a sponsor's not going to want something that they don't consistently get for any reason.
Right. No, that's a fair thing. You know, some of it's quality control, Dan. I've told you this before, and it seems to go in one ear and out the other with you, but I've been doing back in my days for 7 years.
Right.
Okay.
So you're running out of ideas.
I'm running out of original ideas. You know, I've done.
Okay, that's all I was
Original,
saying.
that's all we were
Time
saying.
keeps
Just
moving.
cut to
You're
it.
dying
Yes.
creatively is all I
Right.
was saying. You're
No.
dying. in
Not
a
just
way-
creatively, Dan.
I'm not. Well, I'm older than I've ever been, Mike. But in fact, now I'm older than I've ever been. Now I am. What? But you know, ideas are dying, not me.
Right.
You know, it's not
Your
that
ideas are dying.
It's
is what
not
we're-
that I'm failing to come up with new back in my day ideas. It's that the ideas have gone into a vortex.
Yeah, it's
and
someone
run away
else's
from
fault.
me.
We got it. It's an excuse. I
Thank
mean, with
you.
every passing month, a new piece of technology becomes more and more antiquated.
Let's
Yeah.
cut him some slack, though. He does have one in the queue. I mean,
I do.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
Tuesday joint,
Yeah.
a classic toint.
It's a good one too.
Yeah. I appreciate what Dan highlighted because it does kind of feel like we've just been having your wake for the last several years, and we should really seize the opportunity to say all the beautiful / mean things we want to say directly to your face while you're lucid enough to understand them.
That's true. By the way, I am radiant. I'm looking at myself in Zoom and I have a glow as if I were pregnant. But
Yeah, we had studio lights put in while you were away.
oh, did you? It is bright in here.
He looks
Christ.
healthier though. There's no disputing that Tahoe did him a world of good. That the attention of it, performing the entire time, pointing at a camera, having people look at his golf shots. He's been playing pathetic golf across the decades. Lonely golf where he hits
Yeah.
something into the trees, chases it out, no one's paying attention. Here there were cameras.
Oh.
Everyone was hanging on his word. It is, look at him. He's coughing less today. How many
Yes.
coughs have you heard? It is life for him. Attention and just people making him feel important.
And I'm pretty certain Greg had the shot of the afternoon for us because it was on the Corona 17th where Greg stuck it about 25 feet from the pin. We all played his ball. It was great. It looked like it was tracking to the hole for a while. We thought we had a hole in one.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you, Stugotz, that was probably my second best shot of the day behind my 35-foot putt that I made, which ended up being like a 65-foot putt in the retelling. Marty Fish witnessed it, and the unfortunate thing is that nobody on our video crew caught me making that 45-foot putt. Not that I'm complaining.
Oh, fuck me.
We caught that.
4 years now, Greg Cody has been sending me texts that are fake news stories for years. And the one I got here over the weekend was Miami, and then parenthetically, AP, Associated Press. Meadowlark Media is pushing the pilot for a new TV series. Everyone loves Raymond hitting Chris with a golf ball.
That's right.
It's a terrible joke.
Starring Ray Romano. He agreed to do it, which is unbelievable.
Your show title has an ellipsis in it.
Is that true?
There shouldn't have been a pause there when Dan read that. Read it again, Dan.
Miami, parenthetically, AP, the Associated Press. Meadowlark Media is pushing the pilot for a new TV series. Everyone loves Raymond hitting Chris with a golf ball.
Better.
Do you know that we have a special guest joining us today? Raymond is joining us. Did you know this?
No.
Yes, Ray Romano is going to be on with us today, so we can talk to him about how your son choked around Ray Romano.
That's
and
delightful.
And you can pitch that idea to him, Greg.
I should.
Yeah.
put it on the board there. One cough that was not from laughing. Our first cough of the day.
There goes my perfect day.
We have basketball to talk about, Stugotz. I don't understand how Giannis Antetokounmpo blocked that ball. I also didn't see it because my internet went out with 6 minutes left in the game. So I watched 3.5 quarters of mid-range jumpers. Chris Paul and Devin Booker making nothing from 3, but Devin Booker having the best game from 2. She was Shaquille O'Neal from 2. And all of a sudden my internet goes out it's not the worst time, but it's close to it. And I just can't get any access to anything. But I've seen the slow motion replays of Giannis Antetokounmpo's block on DeAndre Ayton. And Amin Al-Hassan was on with us recently saying that's one of the surest alley-oops and plays in sports, tossing it up in the vicinity of DeAndre Ayton.
Right.
It is 5, he put it in the top 5 of guys you lob a dunk to, and I don't know how Giannis Antetokounmpo had the athleticism to go from the free throw line and with his back to DeAndre Ayton to blocking what was an alley-oop.
It was perfect defense, and really defense that only Giannis could pull off because of his length. That's it. He was staring down Devin Booker. He was there in case Devin Booker was going to take that shot, and then he went with the pass to Ayton, and Giannis recovered and was able to block that shot. Ayton never really had the ball in his hand. He didn't really get it to throw it down, but that's in part because Giannis was coming at him, and so it was just a fantastic play and a really good game. And now a series that Mike has deemed boring, and, perhaps a lot of people don't care about it. And he's right up until last night. Last night's game was fantastic, and now you have a game 5 going back to Phoenix.
That was not a fantastic game.
It was a good game last night.
It was a close ending.
It wasn't necessarily well played, but it was finally something interesting from the series. I'm not pig-headed. That can move. The series can it can be more interesting.
You are pig-headed.
A little bit, but not about this. Like I'm not married to the idea that it's not going to be interesting by the end, especially if it goes to 7. Last night was a close competitive game and wasn't necessarily well played, but I think the Chris Paul injury, which we haven't really addressed, but we did on the post-game show on YouTube that Tom Haberstroh highlighted quite well, is a major thing that's hanging over this series. His left wrist is a problem. He was making really bad mistakes, and he's prone to making really bad decisions when his body fails on him. Those were 2 pick sixes that totally turned the game on its axis.
He does not turn the ball over, and he's turning the ball over the last couple of games. He protects the basketball. Milwaukee had, I think, 4 or 5 turnovers for the game. I did not have Pat Connaughton. Was he 3rd in rebounds by the end of the game? I did not have that happening.
What are we doing with Paul here? Because he has 15 turnovers last 3 games. He was brilliant in game 1. I mean, so now it's the injury. He's always got something, Chris Paul. He always has
He's older.
He does always have something.
Yeah, he's always hurt. Right.
Yeah, no, he does. And his greatness is that he's able to overcome that and have such a long career despite having no knee cartilage.
No, his greatness is when he's great, we don't bring up the injury. When he's not great, we bring up the injuries. He was lousy in a massive NBA Finals game on the road. A 16-year veteran was terrible down the stretch last night.
No one will disagree with you. Not just down the stretch, the entire game. game. But again, it didn't look right. If you've been watching his career, him turning the ball over that way doesn't look right. And if that's fine. If your analysis wants to be he just choked a few days removed from scoring like 70 points in 2 games, okay. But it also might be his wrist, and the result is all that matters. The thing I wanted to talk to you guys about that I find interesting is these games. I know we obsess about the endings on them, but as Kevin Durant gets knocked out because his foot was in the wrong place, and as we're fighting in the margins for just the difference between 3-1 and 2-2 right now is not very much at the end of that game. Phoenix had the game in its grip. I just want to ask you, because we never look at the front end minutes, when Giannis Antetokounmpo has to leave a game twice early, and his explanation is, how do I say this politely? I had to take a tinkle. Do you not find it funny that those minutes, those precious minutes, as Kevin Durant plays every minute of every game, and LeBron James has this mileage on his body because he's got to play every minute in the playoffs because you need every minute. One of our greatest athletes, winning in the margins, fighting over just the tiniest of advantages a couple of times now, has to tinkle early in the game.
When you got to go, you got to go,
You gotta
Dan.
go, man.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think it's a tinkle. I think it arrives with a thunderclap. That dude's prostate has to be free and clear.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Batard Show. Is Giannis Antetokounmpo's prostate free and clear? And do you imagine also that it's not a tinkle? Because I'm with Stugotz here. I think he could have, if he didn't have great discipline, just a steady stream for the entire first quarter. Just if he wanted to. If we were testing him and challenging him, I believe Giannis Antetokounmpo might be able to piss for the entire first half.
Yeah, he's going like a racehorse, that guy.
Like when the Little Rascals held a fire hose. That's how I imagine it. It can levitate him off the ground.
It's not a tinkle. It is absolutely not a tinkle. It's like one of those new rockets that we I shouldn't say we, the rockets in the ocean, those jetpacks that people fly around in. I believe that Giannis Antetokounmpo might be able to score 8 points in a first quarter just floating above the rim on the strength of his urine hitting the floor.
Yes.
I believe he could drown one of those mop boys or towel boys if he wished to.
That's right.
It is not a tinkle. He is being modest there.
It's a geyser, is what it is.
Well, that's the opposite direction. I feel like a geyser goes the other way.
I
Yeah,
often
it goes up,
romanticize
right.
a geyser.
If he's on his back, it becomes a geyser.
Okay.
It's fair, Greg. Yes.
Again, though, I want to accentuate, they're trying to win everywhere. Any little advantage. Where can I get it? In the weight room, in the pharmacy? Where can I get that extra minute? If we just hit one more 3, where the Nets playing for the championship and not out in the second round, somebody's not governing the water intake. Somebody's not reminding him, hey, you got to tinkle. Giannis, we have a coach. Do we need to get a coach for that? Giannis, do you have to tinkle so that we don't lose those minutes at the beginning of a game?
What would that coach do? Just be around him before the game,
Just the
making
tinkle
sure.
coach. Just the tinkle coach wandering around. Did everyone tinkle? Everyone. Were you also surprised to hear Giannis call it a tinkle?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. Yes.
Crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
It was nuts. It was hilarious.
Well, no, it's actually not the nuts.
No,
No.
that's true.
I think it's the bladder.
Yeah, it's a very specific thing. It's like Von Miller described himself the other day as his ankle as being 94% healthy. I thought that was a very odd, specific number to use. And tinkle is a word that you just don't hear.
What does that have to do with anything we were talking about? It's just a fact you read
Yeah.
about Von Miller that doesn't have anything to do
But how
with
does
the
it weave into
conversation.
this
How does
discussion?
What
Yeah.
is your link here?
I
But
see them being related.
how? Well, can you explain to us how? Since
I'm
you
willing
took
to
us
follow
down
you,
this
but just
path,
tell us.
We
Yeah.
all are willing
Yeah.
to follow you, but I feel like you were just flexing. I know something about Von Miller. I'm a football writer.
Two very comparable athletes, corollary talents, both using a phrase, saying something that perks the ear because it's a little bit different. I'm not 100% is what they normally say. You never hear somebody say, I'm 94%, that specific word. Tinkle, I had to go to the bathroom is what you typically hear.
I think he wanted to make it specific, though, that he didn't have to poop.
But do
Right.
we believe him?
But we're surprised by the use of the word tinkle.
Why wouldn't we believe it?
Because, to me, if you got to sit down and take a big one because you've just had a bunch of coffee like me,
Okay.
and man, do I have to go right now. You say tinkle because you don't want to invite the image of the sit down.
Put it on the poll, please, Billy, at Batard Show. Do you have shame about your poop? Is that what you're alleging? You're alleging that Giannis is in the middle of a cover-up, that he went tinkle there because he didn't want anyone to know that
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
But the Von Miller thing.
Why are you saying that?
Well, because I have a strong suspicion. I have inside information.
You
All right,
don't
I didn't
have
wanna
inside
say that,
information.
but-
You don't have inside
Yeah,
information.
I know somebody in Milwaukee who
You
knows
don't.
somebody.
This
That's
is
all it
not
takes,
one of
Greg.
your
Yeah.
sources.
Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck me. I do tend to say that when I hit a bad golf shot. You hear it a lot.
What about when you have bad radio?
I wouldn't dare. Are you allowed to see, the rules have changed. It used to be they looked at you funny if you said damn or hell. And now the F word airs. How does that work?
Sounds like back in my day that
It
you
sure
could have
does.
an original idea about if you were interested in actually cultivating your back in my days every week.
F words.
Chris and Billy have some shower content, some important shower content that we will get into in a second because it is being alleged around here that Chris Cote is playing a dangerous game when it comes to showering. Another dangerous game is being played by Aaron Rodgers. Adam Schefter and Aaron Rodgers, the story around him, he was talking to Chris Collinsworth. They had an interesting back and forth where Collinsworth was just saying, if I'm the Packers, I tell him, go ahead, retire. I'm not trading you, even though it wouldn't help the team any. And Schefter was making the argument on behalf of Rodgers. And one of the things that he said is Aaron Rodgers needs to get some more mud on this as way of advice. And I would argue that no, he doesn't need to get more mud on this so that we could feed for content for days on this. He can handle this the way that he pleases, just like Adam Schefter handled it the way he pleased by putting the mud on the hands of Aaron Rodgers the day of the draft. Aaron Rodgers has sat this out publicly. He's not putting any mud on it, and we'd just feed on the mud if he gave us it. It would just make us content for days. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about before we get to the shower content is what it is that's happened with Richard Sherman. If you've seen what's on the news, in jail, felony, no bail. If you've heard the 911 call, his wife sounded really scared. It was horrifying, talking about hanging himself, apparently, according to the reports, drinking way too much, maybe a hit and run situation. We don't know how much damage was done there, but the 911 call was a panicked wife talking about her husband in a way that she said was behaving out of character, but was a dark glimpse into the life of Richard Sherman. And the thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, because I'm willing to wait for more information on this, but Richard Sherman is a symbol now. Richard Sherman has been one of the guys for a long time in that league who has been a leader on a defense that was super strong for the Seattle Seahawks, turned himself into a superstar in a sport where all the bodies are disposable. It's hard for a position player that, you know, a cornerback to be a famous dude. He did it with his voice and his excellence, both of them combined.
And not just that, a Compton resident that went to Stanford, bet on himself numerous times throughout his pro career, and really an inspirational story.
I don't want to make extrapolations because I don't know what's going on in his life. But the thing that it made me think of is sometimes the guy that I think is best equipped for whatever the end of his career looks like, whether it's Robert Smith or Ricky Williams or John Amici, guys that I think, Shane Battier,
Right.
are super equipped to handle whatever happens right toward the end of your identity dying.
The transition will be smooth for them. You think it's going to be smooth.
I never think it's going to be smooth for any athlete. I'm just telling you there are certain guys I think are better equipped for it than others, or I've thought, I should say. I've thought are better equipped for it than others. But Robert Smith was throwing up in a bucket next to his bed drinking alcohol all morning because of the loss of structure. He's a free agent. I don't actually want to make extrapolations. I don't know what's going on in his life. But the only thing I wanted to talk to you about is I wonder sometimes if the smartest of the guys might actually be less equipped because they keep looking in the places as opposed to the guys who aren't looking in the places, and ignorance is bliss. I've told you the story before of Billy Beane, 5-star athlete, first-round pick, sitting in a dugout, overthinking things so much while Lenny Dykstra sits next to him, just pounding a bat on the dugout floor. Billy Beane knows he's about to face Steve Carlton. Lenny Dykstra doesn't. And it's easier to be Lenny Dykstra and not think about these things. But later in life, Billy Beane becomes an executive and Lenny Dykstra becomes Lenny Dykstra.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on in Richard Sherman's life, neither do you, but I found interesting that this guy is one of the symbols for against all odds, coming out and being a smart and distinct voice and a confident voice. And I'm listening to a 911 call about how he's thinking about hanging himself. And his wife sounds totally panicked. And it was startling to hear. And again, I'm not saying that there's a link there. I'm just saying that I wonder always with athletes how hard it looks at the end for you when you see your career mortality and you begin grieving it.
In the absence of more information, because you're right, he does appear to be one of those guys, or did appear to be one of those guys where he had it figured out, kind of post-career figured out. I'm not saying he wouldn't suffer at all, losing his identity, all that stuff.
And he's just a free agent, by the way.
I mean, he's the VP of the Players Association. Like, I'm with you, Dan. I thought he had, like, all of this figured out, would be one of the guys where the transition would be a bit easier, but it speaks to just how little we know about what's going on in these guys' lives and how they're feeling towards the end of their careers.
It was a too honest glimpse into what might be going on there, because I had my reservations for even listening to it, because I kind of felt like that was a real invasion of privacy. My takeaway was the 911 dispatch officer, because you said, I thought Richard Sherman's wife was quite calm, not panicked, given the circumstances, and holy shit, that dispatch operator was really infuriating.
Not helping matters, being super rude. A woman is watching her husband, and you don't know. Look, man, it can be anything. It could be CTE. It could just be drinking. It could be a mental break. It could be a psychotic break.
It could be a really bad day, too.
It could be any number of things, and now it becomes like this is such a difficult thing, right? Because he has got a target on him. He is a loud voice. And this, what you're listening to, this glimpse into his life is so dark that when you get to the despair of your wife talking about hanging himself, I don't believe, no matter how cursory our glances can be at these guys, no matter what the packaging and mythologizing and the commercialization is, I don't believe any of us had Richard Sherman's life being in that place, even by accident, even alcohol fueled, even depression fueled. And it just goes to show you again and again that you don't actually know much of anything, because hang yourself, Stugotz. Like, that guy gives off a pretty extraordinary confidence about just where he is in life.
Right. I had a hard time imagining what actually happened. He didn't hang himself, but I had a hard time imagining Richard Sherman putting himself in that situation in the first place.
You don't know. Well,
right?
You don't know what somebody's family situation is. You don't know how many complications there are. We just don't know much of anything. This glimpse doesn't get you to see more of those details. It just becomes more confusing.
All we know is what's going on professionally, which is he's a free agent, probably staring down the barrel of his career possibly coming to an end. So we can make all sorts of assumptions that maybe that's a contributing factor, which is also unfair.
I think that fans underestimate what you've just said, that, you know, when you're the aging cornerback who is unsigned, facing your identity sort of running away from you, it adds to whatever stress you may have internally. And we learned this lesson with Naomi Osaka in women's tennis. Mental health issues are invisible. You don't know them until they're spoken about. And if there's any inner frailty to Richard Sherman or anyone else, these things happen. You know, they're behind closed doors. They happen because we hear the police report or see hear the 911 call. You know, I have great sympathy for anyone, including professional athletes, who are going through stuff like that.
About a month ago on this show, we aired an interview with Josh Norman that wasn't very good. And Stugotz, in some ways, to me, was enormously disappointing because I remember the specifics of how Josh Norman came into our life, where he's in Carolina, he says things. He's free, he's unafraid. The team is trying to change him. Ron Rivera is saying, you need to tone all this stuff down. He says, I'm not as good a player if I tone all this stuff down. And Josh Norman was so fresh that I'm like, you remember, right? We're doing it on ESPN radio after a game, and we're like, whoa, football players don't just come on the radio and do this not rehearsed. And then I'm talking to Josh Norman, at the end of his career as he's a free agent. And it was not the same dude. The system had changed him. And then as soon as we stopped taping,
Broken a little bit.
not broken, himself again, not doing the rehearsed
Right.
thing of I'm auditioning for my next employer, just all of a sudden himself again, and almost apologizing for what it is that we just did, because somewhere within the pipeline over 10 years, he realizes, yes, when I'm fast as everyone else and I'm young, I could say whatever I want at the height of confidence and I could be the guy. And then the system breaks me slowly and slowly and slowly. And then all of a sudden at the end of my career, when I'm not that fast, and the last play you remember is Derrick Henry stiff arming me, and I got to get another job. I got to be the person who's out here publicly talking about things the right way. I can't be myself anymore. I'd like to be employed next year. There's another young cornerback who's 22 who doesn't come in talking a lot, might be a little faster than me. I need to be a different person in public. It's not honest.
Right.
It's just the person who's auditioning for his next job by doing the job interview here on the radio as opposed to doing the job interview when he gets with the team.
That sport, above all other sports, I believe, it's just so cruel where it goes so quickly. It happens so quickly. Like baseball, basketball, you have time. You can plan a little bit. Udonis Haslam's been sitting on the bench for the last 7 years. Football, when it's done, it goes, and it goes quickly. And sometimes guys just don't have time to plan out what's next for 'em.
That's interesting because I can very much imagine that Josh Norman is acutely aware that at some point he has to go from being the diva, loud cornerback with all the skills to being the savvy veteran who's going to be the great teammate, the nurturer.
It bummed me out so much to talk to him, Stugotz, because I remember when we were done with him the first time as he's coming in, we're like, please don't change. Please don't change. And the interview we did was with someone who was being really careful. And I was like, Richard Sherman throughout his career has been himself. Like he has been.
Well, his situation has changed. I don't think maybe that's the guy, right? I think the guy we got right after the game is Josh Norman, correct? But I think his situation has changed where he has to act differently.
I mean, at that point in your career, they bring you in for a locker room presence,
Yes.
and you can't necessarily be
Right.
the distraction that you were once in your mid-20s as Josh Norman. You have to come in and be like leader guy.
Richard Sherman, they denied him bail. Like, I don't know, right, Stugotz? We've talked, we've had a lot of fun. We've made fun of guys, like when it's the synthetic weed, when this behavior is so out of character that you've got some athlete doing some weird thing to avoid drug testing. But now you don't have to do the synthetic weed anymore. The details on this, I don't believe this story caught because Richard Sherman is super famous. I believe this story caught because this could happen to any number of cornerbacks and it wouldn't be the story it is today. It's because Richard Sherman is a symbol for something. Richard Sherman, at the center of that defense, found his voice, an adult voice, strong and black and proud. And that defense went against Russell Wilson because there was a company man feel in the reporting between Russell Wilson and that defense. Russell Wilson's still there in charge of that team. The defense is splintered. They won the championship because Russell Wilson was cheap and they could pay for that defense.
But Dan, at that position, it's nearly impossible to become a household name. He did. Richard Sherman did.
he was the
Deion
face.
Sanders did.
He was
right?
the face of one of the greatest defenses of all time.
And voice.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more importantly.
And now you see what you got yesterday, and I wonder how much of that gets erased because you get the honest look into 4 minutes of despair. You get an uncomfortable look into the deepest of the privacies. His wife represents him. That is a strong couple. And you're listening to a 911 call, and I don't know about you guys, but I was like, whoa, hanging himself.
Yeah.
Like, where are you in? And the mind goes to so many places, CTE and drinking and pain relief. And did you see the reported details on the amount of liquor being consumed?
I saw 1 bottle of vodka, 1 bottle of Hennessy.
Gee.
So what's happening there?
We got insight into what is someone's deepest, darkest public moment. And I don't know if it's necessarily fair to Richard Sherman to draw the conclusions we are now because, look, you're not afforded the opportunity to look into my own personal deepest, darkest moment, and I'm so grateful for that. because we're here talking about Richard Sherman for 25 minutes like we know him and we just know what we've seen.
It is uncomfortable to hear a 911 call like that. You feel like a voyeur, like you're hearing something that is so intensely personal and private that it shouldn't be out there. I mean, I recognize Richard Sherman is a celebrity and a public person, but still, can't that be private?
It's not so uncomfortable that most of us listen to it right till the end.
It kind of lent to the magnitude of the situation, though, right? And what was going on. I mean, it did. Like, if you just read it without hearing that call, I don't know if you know just how drastic or dire his situation
Hung
is.
himself.
Yes.
Talking about hanging himself is
Correct.
something that is going to get your attention. This is just a handful of the guys from that defense, but Earl Thomas and Michael Bennett and Richard Sherman have now had really uncomfortable public moments. And I don't know what playing defense that way does to the body and mind. We have ideas, right? But
Just playing defense in general.
Well, just playing football in
Right.
general. But again, that by the standards of the violence in that sport, that defense was a menace.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
Brandon Browner, who is the cornerback opposite of Richard Sherman for a lot of the Legion of Booms run, is presently serving 8 years for attempted murder.
I didn't even mention him. I was mentioning Earl Thomas having his bad public incident during the pandemic. It is a sport that will ravage your body and mind. And as Stugotz was saying, we'll do it quickly. We'll do it where your lifespan can get short. Richard Sherman has had an unbelievably long career. You've heard the cliche for a long time, Cody, of NFL stands for not for long.
Mm-hmm.
You can grab your identity in the gladiator sport across a few years, and it can be empowering. And then you've got your rest of your life to stare at. And you've got maybe mental pain, and you've got physical pain.
And we know enough about CTE now, and we've seen enough evidence where anytime something like this happens, there's an assumption of a link. I mean, you just assume that there's something going on up there related to football, right or wrong. That's an assumption now.
When you get to this kind of darkness, a 911 call from a panicked wife, when you get to this place, is my husband going to kill himself? You got to keep in mind the desperation that you're listening to. I don't think that Richard Sherman, under normal circumstances, given everything that you've seen happen in this country with black people, wants to be inviting the police over to his house. You've reached a level of desperation when you're shouting to a 911 operator, I think my husband's a harm to himself here. Like, I really don't know whether or not Richard Sherman was going to harm himself or others, but that is how you end up in conservatorship, in mental illness, in alcoholism, in depression, all of those things. Because I don't believe, based on what I know of that family, again, she represents him. I think she's his agent. She knows what's at stake and cost with their career when she invites the police into their life.
When she calls 911, right? The level of desperation.
What was that?
It was me just being me. When she calls 911, the level of desperation there, you're right. I can't imagine knowing what she's inviting into his and her lives.
The scrutiny and the police.
Right.
Yeah, and you don't want this to become public for you as individuals or as a couple. So for you to make that call tells you the level of desperation.
Trying to say 911.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
911. Lips got stuck together. I don't know what happened there.
Drink some water, man.
Something happened. It happens. Tahoe. Moderna. West Coast, East Coast. I hit a shot off a champagne bottle. It was inflatable. It cost me 100 yards on my drive. I mean, dispensaries, one every block. Jesus Christ. Gummies. There was an earthquake, too. I'm all right, by the way. Wife still rattled a bit. Had to leave early. Those dispensaries, though. Oh, my God. The gummies. Oh. Snuck a few home. I shouldn't say that on the air.
You probably shouldn't.
No, I probably shouldn't. Sorry I did. I'm not really that sorry that I did. I had one last night. 9-run is trying to make more sense.
He takes a tee shot, hits it into your freckled pink thigh, And while coming over and totally vulnerable, you could have had a conversation. You could have gotten money from him in that spot. You could have blackmailed him. You could have gotten certainly a conversation where he would have been heartily embracing you. You're a member of my family. You could have started a relationship with Ray Romano there. Instead, you slinked into the bushes.
I could have gotten content for you, is basically what you're saying. But in that moment, Dan, I wasn't thinking about content. I was thinking about my family member. I'm mic'd up. He's walking over. He doesn't know I'm mic'd up. There's a lot of people watching him. There's a lot of people kind of mocking him because he just hit a really embarrassing shot. A lot of that's going through my head, and I panicked. And I was like, I don't want our first interaction to be an on-air gotcha kind of conversation. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to be the coward. Dan's going to hate me, but I'm just like so scared. I don't want Ray Romano to come away from this hating me. So I chickened.
Your first interaction, though,
out.
wasn't a conversation between you two. Your first interaction was he hit you with a scalding
That's
golf
true.
ball.
I did kind of have that to hang over his head.
Was it scalding though?
It was a seed. Yeah. It could have been really bad. It could have been my face that it hit. It could have been, where I make children. I plan to do that again, hopefully, if my wife's listening. Can we get on that?
Well, that's
That's
news.
a
That's
the
family
conversation for a different day.
It is, yes.
Thank you, Billy, for the clarification that we were talking about Chris Cote's wiener. Speaking of which, before Ray Romano shows up here, the shower conversation I promised is Chris Cote playing a dangerous game when he does blank, because I have not heard people do this. I don't believe people do this. I can't believe that you do this.
I am new to the early morning shower. I used to be a night showerer, but in recent, I'd say months, I've started showering in the mornings, and sometimes I'm tired. So sometimes I get up and I take the shower and I realize, you know what? I don't got to be there till blank o'clock. I feel like I got 10 more minutes to take a post shower, lay back in bed and go to sleep. A little nappy poo.
Oh,
It is a dangerous game, I admit,
very dangerous.
but it's so nice to
Most.
be able to, like, that little 10-minute cushion, you just lay down. Does anyone else play this dangerous game?
No.
No, because it's dangerous. I mean, once you're up, especially after you've showered. That's it. Like, you go attack the day. You don't lay back down. What are you doing, man?
I mean, if you have, like, everyone, we all have a time we like to be to work. All right. If you do the math with the traffic, it's just like sometimes you're really tired. It usually happens on a Monday. You guys know that Monday feeling. Little Monday nappy poo.
Put it on the poll, please, at Batard Show. Do you know that Monday feeling? Have you ever called it a little nappy poo? And I also want to know the showering habits of our audience. Do you shower at night? Do you shower in the morning? Do you shower both? Or do you shower neither?
How do showers always know what you need, right? Because if you're going to go to bed, sometimes you take a quick shower before bed. It calms you down. You go right to sleep. If you need to wake up in the morning, you take a quick shower. It wakes you right up. Showers just seem to know, huh?
Put that on the poll, please.
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
showers
that's,
just seem to know?
Yeah.
Huh? Do showers just seem to know, huh? Billy, you would never take a shower and then try to sleep for 6 more minutes.
No, I mean, well, okay. So I have about 800 alarms set every morning that go off about every 3 minutes. And then I always hit snooze. So then it goes down to every 2 minutes. So it's just a constant thing where I'm snooze. And every minute or two, an alarm is going off of some sort. And it's because I don't want to get up. I would never think, let me get up, let me wake up and then go back to sleep, because then I'm not going to get up again.
That is a dangerous game of setting the alarm. Like when I am doing this little post-shower nap, I'm like, I have to set an alarm for in 11 minutes. And you're always second guessing yourself on whether it's like whether you got the right time. Like when you're setting an alarm, you always have to make sure you got the AM, PM right. It's a dangerous game because you don't want to wake up and all of a sudden it's noon.
A smile just flashed across Roy's face, which is always worth talking about. Roy, why are you smiling?
The Florida Panthers have decided to buy out Keith Yandel's contract, and it is a joyous occasion here in this side of the production studio. It's great.
Yandy.
Put it on the poll at Batard Show. Are you a snooze button person? Yes or no?
That's a dangerous game. I was reading an article. If you hit the snooze button once, you'll be exhausted the rest of the day. Like when that thing goes off, the alarm, you just got to get up and attack the day. That's what I do. I mean, every single day. I do.
Carpe diem.
Yeah.
It's a killer to go back to sleep. The snooze button is the worst thing ever invented,
I agree.
in my opinion. What you have to do, I've mastered the art of dozing while showering. which is something that it's like a multitask thing. You can actually, like an elephant, you can actually sleep a little bit while standing up. You go through the motions. All of a sudden, you're 10 minutes into the shower. You've dozed off. You wake up. Your hair is washed. You're soaped up. You did it while you shower slept, is what
I've
you
read
did.
that.
Yeah, right? It's true. It's a thing. I mean, look it up. Google it. Google it. Google everything. Christ.
Ray Romano is with us now. He is a family member of that guy right there who's telling you to Google. He's telling you to Google whether or not you can doze in the shower while standing up like an elephant.
It is true.
That is what Ray Romano's. This is his family.
I think Ray would appreciate that.
It's not so bad. He's on HBO Max right now, and I believe he's married to a sex doll. So I think Made for Love.
That's a great show.
He's gone. Yes, he's gone. He's gone away from the sitcom world, and he is playing darker. And I've always imagined that Ray Romano was actually darker and was just doing a sitcom because it was fun to do a sitcom. But instead of just making those assumptions, we welcome him in now. And I don't know what the history is, whether he actually knows or remembers. Has someone actually told him, hey, you hit a family member with that scalding golf ball? Are you aware, Ray Romano, of the damage you did with your tee shot? And thank you for joining us.
Well, first of all, yeah, everybody told me. I mean, I'm not on social media, but my kids are, and my kids got a bunch of stuff from I guess Chris sent something to my daughter, or did you send something to my daughter? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I did, and Greg.
Right. But stay away from them. Anyway, no, but they told me right away, and. Actually, my cousin told me that you were in the tournament a couple of days before. He texted me, Al, your father-in-law, I guess, right? And told me that you were there and you would come over and say hello or something if you saw me. But that didn't happen, so I had to go to you.
You sound incredibly bored by your family member, and I don't blame you because I know them and I recognize the feeling. You sound like you're barely tolerating these people.
No. You should have said something. I mean,
I'm a coward. I'm a coward, Ray.
And by the way, I don't know where I hit you with the ball. Was it in the? I thought it was in the crotch. I thought I got you right in the groin.
It was inner thigh, my inner right thigh.
Oh, boy. Yeah, but everything's okay, though?
A little bruised, but we're good, man.
What was your level of shame, Ray? How often has this happened? You play in celebrity golf tournaments. You're a pretty good golfer.
No, I'm not that good. But here's the truth. You were the second person I hit that day. I'm not kidding. But the other one was even more serious. The other one was a line drive off the tee, and it hit a young kid in his 20s maybe in the shin.
Oh, that's the worst part.
He had a Raider shirt on, so I'm sure he's tough, you know. But it didn't, he was okay, and I took a picture with him. But that was earlier that day. I hit as many people as I parred that day. I parred 2 holes, serious. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, I parred that hole that I hit you on. That was
wow. Well, up and down, huh?
Nice. That seems impossible.
I got it on the green. And if you remember, I poked it out, and then my caddy came and said that you kicked the ball.
Inadvertently. Sorry about that.
Yeah. But so that we put the ball back where, after I poked it out, he said, no. He kicked the ball, so we put the ball back where it was. And I got it on the green, and I made like a 25-foot.
Well, up and down.
Par number 2 of the day for me, and that was it. But also, 3 years ago, this is, I've been playing. That's my 17th year playing in that thing. 3 years ago, I put a woman in the hospital, and I'm not kidding. I hit her in the head. Yeah, but it was like a 9-iron, and it was about 145 yards, and I kind of scolded a little bit, and we yelled 4, and she didn't get out of the way. I hit a dead center in the forehead.
Jeez.
And I didn't even know. And then when we got up to the green, I heard people yell, saying, "Stay awake, Nancy. Stay awake." She was on the ground.
Oh, no.
They're trying to keep her awake, yes. and it ended up she was okay, but she had to go to the hospital.
Jeez.
And I sent her some stuff. I don't have to send you any stuff, do I, Chris?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Chris.
Nice. New set of irons, maybe.
I mean, he came on the show. I think that's all Chris wanted, right?
Yeah. She didn't have a show. She didn't have a show to go on. But
At any
we hit
point, are we
people
going to
all
be
the time.
worried
Everybody
about this?
does.
Like, if we
You know,
kill
there's
someone?
there's people everywhere, and we're all hackers, you know. So it happens a lot out there. But
Ray,
I was having the crappiest day of my life out there that day, and you were part of it.
That is the Cody mantra right there. I was having the crappiest day of my life. You were part of it. It's like a card. It's the opposite of a greeting card. Billy, you were trying to say something.
Well, I'm just wondering, at any point, are these like warning signs going to catch up that you keep hospitalizing
You're a
people?
huge liability.
Why do they keep inviting you back,
You're
Ray?
a golf course menace. What's the number of people you've hit with a scalding golf ball?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you usually. I mean, I guess I average. Look, I hit 2 that day. I didn't hit anybody else that weekend, but I would say I average 1 person each time I play in one of those things. You know, Pebble Beach too. At Pebble Beach too, I've hit some people. You know, I mean, there's thousands of people there, and we're not pros. You know, I mean, you were at that tee box. You must have seen some balls go into the crowd and people yelling.
Not as bad as yours, Ray.
What's that?
Not as bad as yours, he said.
Yeah. No, that was horrible. That was an embarrassing shank. But look at what happened from it.
This glorious moment
You
is what
found
we
family.
have to show. A family's reunited. Love is born. How is it that have you developed an immunity to the shame involved with hitting one of the people who is there while a lot of people are watching you?
Well, look, you don't want to hit somebody, of course not. But the shame of just hitting a bad shot, it sucks, especially on TV. Not that I don't think that got on TV. I don't think they aired that, but the cameras are there. But after, I've hit great shots on TV also. So it's the good with the bad. And after people aren't even fazed by it because they know we're not pros. When I play in Pebble, it's the same thing. On the first tee box, your nerves are the highest because these are people are going to be watching you for the first time. But after a while, everybody knows we're going to hit shitty. Sorry, can I say that?
Yep.
We're going to hit crappy shots. We're going to hit some good, some bad. By the way, I don't know how good you guys think I am, but I'm like a 13, 14 handicap. So I'm going to hit my share of crappy shots, and I'm going to hit great shots too. But yeah, I mean the problem is my caddy. He's my best friend from New York.
Right.
He does it every time for me. And the crap I get from him, he's the most, normally your caddy is supposed to be a positive factor.
Sure.
No. Right. Just the opposite. This guy will rag on me, I mean, he'll say things like, I'll say, can I hit? We'll be waiting in the fairway. And I'll go, can I hit now? And he said, this is what he said to me. He goes, yeah, you can hit. There's nobody in the water.
Love it.
I don't want to replace your caddy, but perhaps, maybe you owe it to a family member to let him caddy for you
He's
next
done
year.
enough. He's done enough.
Yeah. I don't know if is he technically a family member?
That's a good debate right there. We should have.
Yeah.
He was
Second
ashamed.
cousin-in-law, I guess, is what it goes down to, right? Comes down to.
He winced a little bit. He winced a little bit when I introduced you and said that you were in love with a sex doll on Made for Love on HBO Max. He didn't think that was a good way to introduce you. And I'm like, Ray probably is okay with that, given that he took a part where he's in love with a sex doll.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. It's my character who's in love with the sex doll, but that's what it is. That's the truth. That's part of this. That is the show. There's a deep connection there. It's not just a perverted love. There's this guy's he's a sad, lonely widower, and he doesn't want to have a relationship. There's more to it, actually. He's actually dying of cancer, and he doesn't want to risk, having a relationship with a real person, so he seeks out this alternative. And I'm fine with it. It pays. They pay me a lot to have sex with that doll.
That is a great sentence. I thought your best half sentence was going to be when I played Pebble, but no, it's they pay me a lot to have sex with that doll. You look at your body of work because you did The Irishman. When have you arrived in a place, Ray, where you're doing something that artistically fulfills you the most because you're saying to yourself as you're doing it, I love the writing of this, the depth of the script, obviously you're doing something where you're trying to send us a message through the absurdity, the comedic absurdity of being in love with a sex doll.
Well, I didn't write it. I didn't write that. But after the sitcom, what attracted me was doing something, I definitely didn't want to do that again. I got offered that a lot, to do other sitcoms. And I wasn't going to go there, why I was going to leave my sitcom legacy alone. And I had no desire really. And doing something a bit dramatic was scary but intriguing, and it took a while. It took a while for people to even want to cast me in anything like that. It was little by little baby steps. People had to see me. I did a show called Men of a Certain Age first, and then I did Parenthood, and then I did a couple movies. I did The Big Sick, and and then I got lucky because somehow I got into Scorsese's Rolodex through the show Vinyl. I did this show Vinyl on HBO, which Scorsese directed, and it's once you're in his, once he likes you, he uses you. He uses people over and over again, and he just asked me to be in The Irishman. I got into that, and now. Yeah, so now that's kind of what I'm interested in is doing, something a little bit dramatic. I also just wrote a movie and directed it. We just finished and we're editing it now. So that scared the hell out of me because that was the first time I ever did that. And it's a dramedy filmed in Queens, New York. But that's kind of. Yeah, look, I'm lucky. I don't need to pick anything for the money now. I pick it if it interests me, if it gets me excited to do it. My wife has all the money she needs, believe it or not, and I get to choose what I want to do, and the drama is still something I'm drawn to. What's good about it is. I don't know how good I am at it. Doing stand-up, doing comedy, I kind of know I can do that. Drama is still a challenge for me, and I like it. That's why it's like golf. You're never going to get great at it, but you just keep doing it. You keep trying to get better, and sometimes you don't, obviously.
Can you answer a question for us that no longer has to be hypothetical? If Chris Cote had taken that moment that you scalded him with a golf ball and tried to extrapolate it into maximum gain for himself and the show in that moment because you were vulnerable having hit him, what could he have done and what more would he have gotten from you in terms of interaction if, for example, you had recognized that the 1 in a billion shot is you just hit somebody who's in your extended family?
Well, no offense, but I wouldn't have recognized him.
None taken.
If he had said, I'm Chrissy's husband, First of all, I would have had to remembered. I would have had a place. Oh, Chrissy. Oh, that's okay. By the way, I don't know if you call her Chrissy. I remember them calling them Chrissy and Corey because they were twins. Yeah. So I wouldn't have. I would have had to placed it, and if he had told me right there, you know, we would have had a moment. I would have said something. Maybe, you know, they were filming it, so that would have been a cool thing for me to bring it up to the cameras. You know, I would have maybe said something to whoever was there, whatever coverage we were getting, and that might have got on. You know, who knows? That might have got on the broadcast because the odds of it are crazy.
That's right.
Yeah, and you know, maybe somebody sees him. Maybe he gets an offer, and maybe he doesn't have to work for you guys.
That's right. He could have been in The
He choked.
Irishman.
Yes.
He's working with Scorsese.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
right.
exactly right. Instead, he just said, "Oh shit," and then went into the bushes. Thank
I
you.
have a question. I saw the thing on YouTube that you guys did with me leading up to there. Now, I don't know if you want to reveal this or not, but was that legit? Did you do that before I had gotten to that hole, or is that something you guys did after it had happened?
1,000% legit. We just thought that you were going to walk by down the fairway and I'd be like, oh, family member, like longing for you. And that was the bit we had planned. And then you
Really?
drilled me.
I watched it and I thought, oh, I wonder if they did this after because it's such a great, cool thing.
But he
that's
fell
good.
apart and then choked, and he didn't give us the payoff of actually interacting with you. You just shuffled
I was
off.
looking out for my man, Ray. I don't want to put him on a hot mic when he doesn't know. I got to watch out for my fam.
Well, what would you have done if I hadn't hit you? Were you going to come up and say something?
I think as you walked down the fairway, I just was going to, like, from 20 feet away, like, to my camera, just be like, Ray, my family member, like, longing for you. Like, that was kind
but
of...
my family member, everybody says that on it.
Yeah.
That would not have worked, Chris.
Yeah, that is why we left. you.
The end game was you not leaving the interaction hating me. Did I succeed?
No, I didn't hate you. Are you kidding?
There you go.
I thought I hurt you. Yeah. I felt bad for you. I was worried about you. I go, oh shit, that's 2 lawsuits in one day. Right?
Thank you, Ray. We appreciate the time and the content, sir.
All right, I appreciate it, and I guess Chris, I'll see you somewhere down the road.
Yeah.
Right, you're never going to see him again.
No, you're not.
Later, fam.
I'll see him at like my daughter's wedding or something, right, or something like
Yep.
that.
I'll be there.
It's good to see Greg. I haven't seen Greg in about a month and a half, but we've had something in these studios that is massive that was sent to him, and I got to get this off of our hands, so I'm just going to walk it in there. Chris, you have some details on what this is?
This was people from the Clevelander were like, what the hell are you guys getting sent here? This was an odd package, to say the least, and it came with a note, and I'll just read it here. To the Miami Herald's greatest underwear columnist, the PFPI League Commissioner, like other leaders, deserves a great staff. Please accept this visual representation of your metaphoric staff. May it help you get Zagaki where you need to go. Damn it.
Very nice, except for, of course, Chris Cote being incompetent at the end. Here comes the giant staff.
Going to sit with you all
It
week.
doesn't
God.
quite fit into the room. Mike
Oh
is
my
trying
God.
to get in here. It is lovely, though. It's bejeweled. It is a bejeweled
It's
staff.
engraved.
Oh my
It is
God.
beautiful,
It is.
man.
It is for the PFPIs. Who Needs Me is engraved on
Who
the side
needs
of
me?
it.
Is that going to
Jesus,
turn into
This
a
is
snake?
not going to go well. My dad holding it. Here we go.
This is-
Nope.
Watch
This is
it.
like 8 feet long.
It is very
Good
long.
Lord.
Yes.
Wait, it
Don't
has
look over
our
that
names
bottom.
engraved in it. It has all our names engraved there. That's pretty special, amazing.
Who needs me?
The starting point of this, I believe, is Greg Cote said he wanted to be the president of the United States because he wanted a staff. That is not the kind of staff he was talking about. You don't have to be the president of the United States in order to get a staff. And then it became, how do we get him an actual staff so he could be the commissioner of his fantasy football league with a staff?
But I think even average leaders are made to be great leaders just by holding a staff. I really do. It makes you a great leader, just holding it.
This is fantastic. I want to thank whoever took the time and the effort to mail this. It's I feel like it's empowering. I almost feel like just holding it is like a cosmic energy. that's being imbued.
I think Stugotz's point is great. A lot of great leaders have had assistants walking with a walking staff. You're talking about Gandalf in literature, Moses from the Bible, Donnie Walsh.
Holy Moses. Wow.
I thought his was a wheelchair.
It was. It's funny now.
Riley went in with rings.
The old guy with the deep voice from Boys to Men.
I don't think, Mike, that you realize that you're now so old that when you make a Donnie Walsh
I made
joke,
a Little Rascals reference. And the Boys to Men one is a pull. Let me tell you. You know he left Boys to Men because he wanted to fulfill his lifelong dream of being an accountant.
why was that not covered? Why was that not covered in This Is Pop, the Netflix story of Boys to Men? Because I did not know some of this stuff that was in this documentary about, it's the first episode of a series of episodes. The first two I've seen are interesting. One is on the history of autotune, which was interesting. And then it was the first one, Boys to Men. I had no idea that they birthed, that even there, white people were stealing from black people when it came to music, that Backstreet Boys and everyone else, that they were stealing from Boys to Men. I did not know that Boys to Men went from popular to cheesy, and it was enormously popular. I did not know they were that popular. #1 hits across many, many weeks, not seen since Elvis, but I did not know that they went from popular to cheesy, at least in part because of how quickly music changed from, hey, the black guys are just wearing the same outfits and they're adorable, to here come Tupac and the rest of hip hop, and they're going to change all of music, and boy bands aren't going to be cool. But they didn't actually cover in any way why Boys to Men broke up. And it seems to be an incredibly sensitive topic. And now it seems that they are just boys to men, because they don't get along anymore. It's just two men. It's maybe it's three of them, but one of them didn't seem like he was that comfortable with the others.
I'm sure that they wanted to cover that in the This Is Pop episode, but they weren't really getting a lot of compliance from the active Boys to Men members, and baritone voice with the walking staff that quit certainly doesn't want to talk about his time. It was mad awkward when they tried to explore that space because Boys to Men shut it down.
How's the staff doing? Are you going to take it home? Are you going to forget it? You're just going to leave it here? How's this going to work?
I am genuinely concerned whether it's going to fit in my car.
Yeah, you have a Corvette.
And for
It's
that,
not going to fit in your car.
it will
Greg.
not. And for that reason,
Out the window, perhaps. You have,
Out both windows under your chin. That seems safe.
do you have a moonroof?
I do have a removable roof, but I just saw Godzilla meets King Kong, and in that movie, King Kong has a stick like about this size, and he throws it like a javelin and actually pierces the cosmos, like millions of miles. He throws this millions of miles. If I could do that and throw this all the way to my home, that would be fantastic.
He's talking about watching that movie. He did it on the flight back from Tahoe.
Of course.
My dad did something on that flight that I've never seen anyone do. He watched movies for a lot of the flight, and he fell asleep late in the flight. He slept through the landing. The plane, you know that like the brakes where it's like 2 minutes, and he literally did not wake up for like 3 minutes after we had already been on the ground. He just kind of casually like opened his eyes like, did I miss anything? I'm like, that is insane.
That's impressive. I've only seen that a handful of times. It's always on the red eye from Vegas.
Yeah, coincidentally enough.
They don't want to get off. There have been times where I just don't want to get off that red eye. I just want to stay there sleeping.
Right,
Yeah.
especially when you lose in the casino like I did. You never want to wake up again.
And how many beers were you having with all that freedom?
Well, who keeps track, really? Come on. Except
Guillermo,
my wife.
put it on the poll at Batard Show. Have you ever slept through an airplane landing?
I mean, the wheels hitting the ground, that seems impossible.
All of it. It's abrupt. I don't know what your normal sleeping patterns are, but it seems like something that would jostle you awake. Maybe a very good pilot just lands on a feather.
All the announcements before you land, like nothing.
all of it.
Nothing.
Just-
I sleep. I told you I sleep in the shower. I sleep during land. I can sleep on a bed of nails. I swear.
But no one like tapped you, put your seat back in its original position, none of that, the tray table.
Well, my seat is never back.
He's just chin
straight seat
on his
guy.
chest
What?
sleeping.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
just chin on the chest.
I start off like this, and then I'm end up like this. It's sad, really.
This is mostly an audio effort here.
Like this.
Yeah, but
like
the-
this.
But everyone knows.
The way that his voice traveled while he did that really painted a vivid picture.
It did. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate
I'm
that.
jealous.
About what, Billy?
I wish I could do that. I wish I could do any of that. I can't. I can't sleep on a plane. Sometimes I lift my feet off the ground of the plane just because I feel like the vibrations of just flying, and I'm like, this makes me uncomfortable. I'm not a good flyer. I wish I could just fall asleep.
Wow. I could sleep on the wing of a plane.
Really?
Yeah, I really could. While it's in flight. I don't mean on the tarmac.
Jokes.
Seems dangerous.
And reruns with these jokes, and it's really frustrating.
Why?
Good night, everybody. Tip your waitresses.
It's 11:37 a.m.
He said actually before our flight, because we actually had some flight troubles on the way to Tahoe. So on our connecting flight, we actually ended up in a middle seat going from our connecting flight to Tahoe. And he had said previously that he'd sit on the wing of the plane before sitting in the middle seat. But that didn't happen.
Did you offer?
I'd rather. I mean, the middle seat is the worst.
The worst.
Oh, my gosh.
One of the many life lessons that I took from the Die Hard film franchise is when I get on a plane and I just scrunch my toes across the carpet. Really centers me. I'm just kidding. I think people would take their shoes off in airplanes are animals. I just wanted to say that I take life lessons from Die Hard.
Even though you know it's the wheels coming down or going up, you get nervous every single time?
Yeah, I don't
hearing
like that noise.
I
I don't like that
can't stand that noise. It haunts me.
Greg, do you sleep every flight? Because I feel like if you sleep the way that you described, or you just put your head straight down, the middle seat should be reserved for sleepers, right? Because the window seat is a waste if it's used by someone who's sleeping. And the aisle seat, you're kind of a burden if you're sleeping in the aisle. So the middle seat is kind of like prime sleeping real estate, I would think.
I love sleeping during a flight. I just do. The alternative is to stay awake and be terrified. So when I fall asleep, in the ultimate relaxed state. It's like falling asleep Saturday while Chris Schenkel described bowling on TV. It's that same soft sound that is just.
What are you talking
it's a
about?
lullaby.
No, I know.
hell is
I know what he's
Chris
saying. Yeah.
Who's
Chris
Chris Schenkel? You got to be kidding me.
Legend.
I don't know who Chris
He is a
Schenkel
legend.
is.
Him and Kurt Gowdy.
Oh,
Raised-
that clears it
raised
up.
television.
Oh, okay.
Pioneers, some would say.
Damn right.
I would imagine if you're sleeping that heavy, you're also snoring, are you not?
I don't snore, although my wife may disagree. After I've had a few beers, I may snore, but
So you snore.
no, because when you get, we were driving to
No.
the airport in an Uber at like 5 a.m. So no, I had not been drinking except a couple hours earlier in the casino. But I was not snoring on that flight.
Were
no.
you drooling? Because if your chin is resting on your chest, that is prime conditions for drooling on the airplane.
No, I don't drool. When my nasal passage is clear, I'm a beautiful nasal breather. My mouth never opens. My mouth is clamped
Let's hear
shut
it.
like a crocodile
Let's hear
when
it.
I'm
Let's
asleep.
hear
Give us some breathing.
I tell you, I take a deep breath in my pulmonologist's office. He raves
Mhm.
about my lung
I'm not
capacity.
buying that one.
He
man.
raves
There's no
about my
way.
lung capacity. I swear. I'll get him on
You
the
have
phone right now.
asthma.
I know I do. That's why he's raving.
Get him on the phone. Get him on the phone.
He
There's
can't
no way he
believe it.
raves about
You had a
that.
benign tumor on your lung.
I used to. It was extracted. The sound of the stethoscope on my lungs puts him in a euphoric state. He says that for my age, my breathing, when everything is clear, is just phenomenal.
Guillermo, put it on the poll, please. Does your pulmonologist rave about your lung capacity?
Mine
Yes
does.
or no? Yes, you mentioned
Get a
that.
new doctor, man.
Oh, he's great. He's my favorite of all my medical staff.
One story that we should put a bow on for the week because we have obsessed over it. For those of you who are interested in the little sports media soap operas, I found the timing of a leak yesterday to be interesting. Before the game, before there would be a result that would take leverage to the point that Maria Taylor may or may not sit out a game 6 on Disney television, right before the game was played that Phoenix could have won and made that a series that ended in 5 games, bang, there's a leak. She's close to going to NBC. And the reason I thought the leak was interesting is just because, okay, ESPN, here you go. It's on the doorstep with NBC. Let's see what your best offer is here before Game 6 and see if your star talent sits this out Game 6 and then leaves the company because she doesn't like what your situation is on diversity and just leaves to further her career as the report comes out that she's on the doorstep of joining NBC. And I've heard from a couple of people now, enough to feel like it's strong. This ain't about money. And it's not because ESPN doesn't have the best offer if all you care about is money.
NBC makes a lot of sense. I kind of do this thing where I don't really pay attention to all the sports properties that they have. I know they're phasing out NBCSN as a cable channel available, but they've got the Olympics. They haven't really replaced Bob Costas as a pseudo host for everything. There's a nice piece of real estate for Maria Taylor to totally dominate for NBC.
Mike, they have Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, that's
they
what
have Notre Dame football.
Notre Dame football.
Yeah.
The Olympics is massive. They're putting a bunch of sports exclusively on Peacock. Yeah, no, they got a lot of properties.
ESPN is really trying to keep her, though. And what I'm telling you is we're now going to be faced with the Game 6 scenario of she will tell you whether there's enough money in the world. Because everything that's happened has been to this leverage point. You never see this happen where we're all disposable. Kenny Mayne just was offered a 61% pay cut. There are very few people that they are really trying to keep because we're all very disposable. They've realized that the reason prices are dying is because ESPN doesn't really have any real competitors anymore. They don't have to worry about it. And they can just say, we've been overpaying for years. We can get rid of all of you. None of you matter except for a couple of you. But she's one that does. She has made herself over the last 18 months somebody that they're really trying to keep, because they didn't try to keep Ariel Helwani. They didn't try to keep Kenny Mayne. You can really try to keep somebody. And what I'm telling you, she's about to make a decision that looks like, I don't know what's going to happen here at the final moments, but looks like there's not enough money in the world, given what's happened over the last 24 months.
Well, not enough of ESPN's money, right?
But that's what I'm saying. Like what I'm telling you is that ESPN is the most incentivized to pay her the absolute best. And Disney Plus has made a real killing. Disney is now running ESPN in a way that's much more hands-on than it's been.
And ESPN Plus is actually going up in price. The plan is to put more sports properties on that. Thankfully, the bundles staying at the same price, because out of all the streaming services that I'm subscribed to, I use ESPN Plus the least right now.
We probably shouldn't end on that note.
What? A personal story?
Just I use ESPN Plus the least right now is probably not the way to use that.
Well, the way the algorithm works because of Megaphone, our hosting site, is the chances are higher than most that take is going to be directly followed by an advertisement for ESPN Plus.
That's the way to end the show.